Shabbat Shalom and Shana Tova. Once upon a time, there was a poor man who lived in a forest. Forests are often portrayed as dark and scary places in so many of the fairy tales. But for so many people throughout history, the forest has been a place of abundance, a place of blessing, a place where so much could be found that even one that was poor could always be sure of having a little something for the meal each day. It happened that this man was out foraging, and as he went about his way, he heard off in the distance, it's an unusual sound, familiar with the forest. He knew this wasn't an animal. He trotted over, and as he got closer, the sound got louder, and as it got louder, it was clear that this was a person in trouble. The words became clear, "Help, help," and he began to sprint, and he came to the edge of a ravine. And there, just a few feet down, there was a man holding on to a branch. The poor man quickly laid down on the stomach, reached down, grabbed the other man's hand, and pulled him to safety. As he came up, only now did the poor man realize that this man was not a poor man. This man was dressed in fine clothes, shot through with gold and silver threads. And there, on his head, was a thin circlet, a crown. The man was the king. He had just saved the king's life, and the king was very appreciative. The king said, "I was out here on my own. The horse bolted, and it threw me as it came to the ravine and then ran off. I was hanging on for dear life, but I didn't know how much longer I could hold on until you came. You saved me. I am so grateful to you for my life. In a week, we are having the annual celebration of our kingdom. Please come to the palace as my guest, and there you will receive the honor in front of the entire nation. There in my throne room, you may ask of me anything, and I will grant your wish." The man was taken aback, speechless to say the least. And the king walked off with a majestic stride back to the palace. The man went back to his small hut. What should he ask for? He was going to be there in front of the king. This was the man who ruled the entire kingdom. What should he ask for? It was too big of a question for him to answer. He was a humble man after all. So he went to the village, and he sat down in the inn, and he told all of the people gathered there the story, how he had saved the king's life, and how the king had promised him anything that his heart should desire. And the people offered advice. First, there were those who berated him for saving the life of the king. "What has he ever done for us? You should have let him die." Others quickly shouted that down. What good would it be for a different person to be king? Others said, "You should have had him promise before you lifted it up. How do you know he wouldn't betray you? If you couldn't trust the word of a king when he was on his feet, why would you trust it while he was dangling from a branch?" Then others began to give more helpful suggestions. The first one popped up and said, "Well, obviously what you need to ask for are riches. I mean, no offense, you're poor. Ask him for wealth, and then your life can be transformed." The forager said, "But if I'm standing there in the middle of the throne room and I ask for great wealth from the king, then everybody will know that he gave me great wealth. By the time I get back to my own hut, I'll already have been beaten and robbed senseless. What good will that do me? Why should I ask for cash?" Another piped up and said, "Well, I hear that the king has a very attractive and eligible daughter. Ask for her hand in marriage. Then you'll also come into wealth and you'll have the king's protection, because no one would dare kill the son-in-law of the king." The man said, "But I don't even know this girl." I said, "Well, what does it matter? She's rich and she's beautiful." The man said, "Well, yes, but I'm not entirely sure that's all I need to be happy with someone? Should I marry someone just because they are attractive? Will she still be attractive in 30 years, in 50 years? Will the wealth make up for it if we fight, if we argue? And what of her? Should her father give her away in marriage as though he was trading away some property, a possession, like a prized cow? She will resent me all the days of her life, being forced to marry someone that was beneath her, a dirty peasant. No, I can't ask for his daughter's hand in marriage. That wouldn't be fair to her, and I'm not entirely sure that would make me happy either. Well, said another, since you are so stubborn, why don't you ask the king to make you one of his court? Be a courtier. Then he will give you a position of respect and honor. He'll place you in charge of some important sector of the government. You'll make a little money from that. You'll have people who have to bow and scrape before you, seeking your permission for whatever it is he gives you authority over. And then you can pick whoever you want to marry, and I'm sure there will be girls lining up to marry one of the courtiers of the king, even if it isn't a princess. What do I know of the government? What would I say? Would I stand next to the king and offer him advice on how to run the country? Can I tell the king how to make war? Can I tell the king how to handle his treasury? I would look a fool, and they would all think me a fool. This would not be noble. This would not be respectful. Here, at least in the village, we respect one another. But if I were to go in the court, there is nothing I can say that would bring me honor, only shame. Other suggestions kept going. Wish for a palace, wish for servants, wish for all sorts of things. But the poor man found only poor advice among all the people of the village. And so he had a very fitful week, because he knew he couldn't refuse the summons of the king, even if it was for his honor, and he was afraid that he would only come to shame. He still had to go. He was the king after all. And so finally the day came. He cleaned himself up as best he could, and he walked to the palace. He was met with trumpets blaring, for the king had laid it on very clearly that this man was to be honored. As he proceeded through the gates of the palace, there were criers who called out, "This is the man who saved the king's life. This is the man the king wishes to honor." And finally he reached the throne room. He came before the king, and he bowed low to the ground. And the king stood and told all that had gathered what this man had done for him, and how he would show his appreciation by answering the man's wish. The poor man opened his mouth and said, "Your Majesty, the only wish I have is that you'll be a good king. You see, we depend on you. We need you. We need our king to bring justice, because sometimes the people are not heard in your courts. Sometimes the wicked are able to hurt, kill, take from others, and they are not punished. Your Majesty, we need you for our prosperity. Sometimes people don't have enough to eat. Some of the people in my village go to bed each night hungry. We do what we can, we share with one another, but it doesn't always feel like there's enough. And people get sick. Some people die that could easily be saved if only we had a little more help. Your Majesty, I just want you to be a good king. That will be enough for me. I don't need anything more than that. If I have the king's justice, if I have the king's blessing of prosperity, if I have the king's protection for all of our people, if I have the king's promise that you will pursue peace with all of your heart, that's all I want. That's all we need." The king rose from his chair, and he hugged the man. He says, everyone comes to me asking for something for themselves. But you have come asking something for the kingdom, not just for you. You talk about us and we. You talk of justice. You talk of prosperity, of peace, of health. These are my wishes for the kingdom. And I will grant your wish, says the king. But there is a condition. You have to help me. Because you see, justice cannot be just bestowed. Peace cannot be blanketed across the kingdom from on high. Prosperity, health, all the things you mentioned that a good king should promote will only happen. The kingdom will only flourish if you help me. When you see someone in need, you help them with the gifts that our kingdom has produced. When you hear of an injustice, you bring it to those who are charged with justice. And together as a true witness and with our fair courts, we will stamp out injustice. All of the blessings you ask for can only come if we do it together. So I will ask you to help each day, and I will ask all of the members of my nation to remind themselves daily of what you have wished. Each day, turn to me, says the king, and ask for peace. Ask for wealth, prosperity, for health. Ask for knowledge, for wisdom. Ask for all of the things that our kingdom truly needs. Not more palaces, not more fancy bureaucrats, but what our kingdom truly needs. And when you ask me, when you remind me, you remind yourself. Because then when you stop your requests and you step outside your door, you will know that you have to work on that too. It's easy to ask for blessings to shower down from the sky. It's easy to ask for a king to simply give. But no gift so given will continue to bless. Only those gifts that are earned together, that are protected together, that are grown together, only those will be eternal blessings. On Rosh HaShanah, on Yom Kippur, each day when we stand in prayer, when we stand before our sovereign, our monarch, superior to any flesh and blood king that's ever lived, think, what is it that you are asking that mighty ruler? Are you asking for wealth? Are you asking for a palace? Are you asking for a prince or princess, whether they like it or not? Or are you asking the blessings that our sages ordained so many thousands of years ago? The blessings of peace, of prosperity, of health, of justice, of wisdom, of all of the blessings that bind us together and create a true society that is blessed. And when you ask for those things, hear that voice in your own ears as well. Because the petition is not just to the king. The king is asking you. You want peace? Work for peace. You want prosperity? Don't only work for your own. Work for us all. You want justice only when you feel aggrieved? Or do you want justice when any is wronged? You want peace. Does that only mean that you want to feel safe and snug in your complacency? Or does it mean that you are sick in your heart when you see any that suffer? Hear the words of the blessing. They are calling out to you. For in truth, we are not poor foragers in the forest. We are the princes and princesses of the king. we have been charged to answer this call. We are the ones who will build this blessing. Avinu, Malkeinu, our parent, our monarch, will support us, will strengthen us, will guide us. But the work is still ours to do. When you join together, when you are alone in your thoughts, stand before Adonai. Stand before the one who rules the creation. Ask for what is truly noble, and then be noble enough to fulfill it. Shabbat Shalom and Shana Tova.